Usually when we talk about getting a medical diagnosis, there is this inherent expectation of precision.
Right, like engineering.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
you fall off your bike, you break your arm, and the X-ray shows that jagged white line right across the bone. And the doctor just points at the film and says, well, there it is.
Yeah, it's definitively binary at that point. I
That's
mean,
more.
it is either broken or it's not broken. You don't really get into a philosophical debate about the nature of the fracture.
Right. It's clean. It is clean.
And honestly, it's comforting. Even if the news itself isn't great, as humans, we just like things to be visible. We like them to be categorized, We like our reality to be neat, tidy, and verifiable.
We absolutely do. I mean, we inherently trust the diagnostic tools that show us the hidden structures of our reality. The MRI, the X-ray, the electron microscope. We just rely on the machine to tell us the truth about the underlying mechanics of the world.
But then you step into the world of celestial mechanics and deep time, and suddenly that X-ray machine is fundamentally broken. Or, more accurately, the X-ray is showing us a skeleton that absolutely shouldn't exist.
Right. We are looking at a diagnostic landscape today that is just completely murky. It's going to force us to choose between two completely incompatible versions of reality.
It is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters.
Yeah.
Because today, the X-ray machine we are examining is an incredibly complex government-grade simulation of the cosmos itself.
Yeah.
And the results it is outputting are literally shattering the very foundation of what we think we know about physics and astronomy and history.
Okay, before we drop this amble on the listener, I just want to say to you listening to this right now, congratulations on completing the fourth step of this journey.
Absolutely.
That task is complete. Welcome to Deep Dive number 5. I figured we really needed to change things up again today. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in the sands of Egypt, we've trekked through Mexico, but we are moving away from the Pyramid of the Sun.
A major geographical shift.
Yeah, we are leaving the Great Pyramid of Giza behind. We are shifting to an entirely new coordinate on the globe for this one, and that is the Temple Mount in Jerusalem.
And conceptually, this is a brilliant geographical pivot based on the massive stack of sources you provided.
There's so much data.
There really is. We are looking heavily at the episode 5 file in our source material today. And for the listener, the file name for that begins with new, in parentheses.
Right.
But we also had the first 4 episodes in the source files as well for reference.
Yeah.
Because we genuinely need all of that established context for the collision course ahead.
We really do, because the core hook of this deep dive, like the anomaly that is about to completely break our metaphorical diagnostic machine, is this.
Okay.
The exact same 11 stars from the Perseus Constellation, which aligned at hyper-precision zeniths over the apex of the Great Pyramid in Africa and over the Pyramid of the Sun in North America, are now forming those exact same flawless alignments over the Temple Mount.
Wow. And what is fascinating here is the sheer mechanistic impossibility of what you just described.
Yeah.
I mean, we are looking at 3 entirely different geographic locations. They are separated by thousands of miles. They are sitting on completely different tectonic plates.
Built by completely different civilizations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet, the Stellarium software engine is insisting that across vast epochs of human history, these same 11 stars are locking into perfect plumb-line zeniths over all 3 monuments.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the stakes of this deep dive become truly astronomical. The source material argues that we are standing at a precipice here.
A major one.
It argues that it is time to admit defeat. We are faced with a brutal, unavoidable binary choice. Either NASA's mathematical ephemerides, like the highly complex orbital calculations that literally output Stellarium's data and land multi-billion-dollar rovers on Mars, either those are fundamentally flawed, or
the mainstream scientific theories regarding precession, proper motion, and continental drift are wrong.
Exactly.
And as the sources forcefully insist, it cannot be both ways at the same time.
Right, you have to pick one.
You really do. You cannot have a universally trusted, hyper-accurate navigational map that mathematically proves the universe does not move the way the astrophysics textbooks say it does.
Now, quick timeout. I want to address the elephant in the room regarding the tone of our source material today.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The author of these documents doesn't pull any punches at all. They use some highly charged, very aggressive language against mainstream science.
Very aggressive.
We are talking about referring to the scientific establishment as lamestream scientific, calling academic consensus quackademic consensus,
Yeah.
and actively referring to foundational theories as fairy tales.
Right, which is exactly why we need to be crystal clear about our role here today. We are
Yes.
not taking sides in that fight. We are not endorsing these specific viewpoints or validating the inflammatory language.
Not at all.
Our mission today is to impartially report on the intense, mathematically dense arguments contained in the original source material.
We are just the messengers.
Exactly. We are going to lay out the data, the coordinates, and the logical checkmates exactly as they are presented in the files. The goal is to give you, the listener, the wrong information so you can evaluate the sheer weight of this paradox for yourself.
We are the guides, you are the jury. So, to begin this investigation, before we can even look at the new data over the Temple Mount, we have to establish the physical laws that this new data is supposedly breaking.
That's essential.
If we are going to claim that textbooks might be wrong, we need to understand what the textbooks actually say. We need to understand the gears of motion.
This is crucial. The listener needs to feel the physical grinding weight of these astronomical forces to truly appreciate why this paradox is so destructive to the standard model.
So let's visualize it. Expecting 11 different stars to align perfectly over any monument across millennia is like trying to synchronize 3 completely different mechanical systems running at entirely unrelated speeds.
That's a great analogy.
Imagine you have a slow-swinging grandfather clock, a high-speed digital stopwatch, and a slow-moving airport conveyor belt. You start them all at exactly the same fraction of a second, wait 46,000 years, and then expect them to all strike a perfect localized zero at the exact same microscopic moment.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize the 3 distinct physical motions happening in the cosmos, according to standard physics.
Thanks.
Let's meticulously break down these 3 gears, using the baseline 46,369-year cycle from the Giza alignments established in the earlier source files.
Good idea.
Because that gives us the perfect temporal scale to really understand the chaos here.
Let's do it. Gear number 1, the digital stopwatch. Let's talk about proper motion. Like, what is the star actually doing out there in the dark?
Well, proper motion is the intrinsic physical flight of a star through space relative to our solar system.
Okay.
I think a lot of people have this subconscious idea that the stars are just, painted onto a fixed glass ceiling.
Right, like a planetarium.
Exactly. But they aren't. They are massive burning celestial bodies orbiting the center of the Milky Way at wildly different speeds and in completely different three-dimensional directions.
So they are physically flying away from each other, passing each other, that kind of thing.
Yes, it is a highly dynamic moving swarm. But let's take this star 44 Persei, also known as Atik Menkib, which was the focus of the original Giza alignments.
Yep.
According to the AI verification documents in the sources, 44 Persei has a proper motion of 9.141 milliarc seconds per year.
Hold on, milliarc seconds. That sounds incredibly tiny. Like, if I look up at the sky tonight, I am not seeing that move.
No, you absolutely wouldn't notice it on a human timescale. A human life is just a blink. But remember, we are turning the clock forward 46,369 years.
Okay, right.
If we run that math, and the source documents map this out rigorously, that microscopic annual crawl compounds. Over 46 millennia, it creates an angular shift in the sky of roughly 0.1177 degrees.
Which honestly still sounds like a microscopic fraction, a tenth of a degree. If I hold my thumb up to the sky, that is barely anything.
It sounds small on paper.
What does that actually mean for you and me standing on the ground?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where the math translates into physical geographical reality.
Okay.
The AI calculation takes that 0.1177 degree angular shift in the sky and projects it down onto the curvature of the Earth.
Got it.
And it corresponds to a change in the zenith position, which is the point directly overhead, of approximately 13 kilometers.
Wait, 13 kilometers.
Yes, about 8.1 miles.
Just from a tenth of a degree.
Yes. The geometry of a sphere means a tiny angle in the sky casts a massive shadow on the ground. And because the original value of the proper motion for this specific star was negative, the source specifies that the star physically moves south.
Let me just make sure I am painting this picture correctly for the listener.
Go for it.
If you were standing on the absolute microscopic tip of the Great Pyramid 46,000 years ago, and 44 Persei was dead center, perfectly perpendicular over your head like a laser beam,
Right.
over the passing of 46,369 years, the physical flight of that star through the galaxy would cause its laser beam to drift 13 kilometers to the south of where you were standing.
That is the reality of the stopwatch. The star hasn't just slightly drifted. From the perspective of the pyramid's apex, it is gone. It is over 8 miles away.
Okay, and that is just gear number one. What about the grandfather clock? The slow, massive swing. Let's talk about precession.
Precession is widely considered the most destructive, chaotic force when it comes to long-term astronomical alignments.
Why is that?
While proper motion is the star moving, precession is the Earth itself moving. Specifically, it is the axial wobble of our planet.
Like a spinning top that's running out of momentum on a table, right?
That's a great visual.
Like it doesn't just spin perfectly straight up and down, it starts to lean and its axis traces a slow, wide circle.
That is the exact mechanism. Because the Earth isn't a perfect sphere, it bulges slightly at the equator. The gravitational pull of the sun and the moon are constantly tugging on that bulge.
Okay, making it wobble.
Exactly. This causes the Earth's axis to slowly trace a massive circle in the heavens. This completely changes where our North Pole points, which in turn shifts the entire celestial coordinate system from our perspective.
And mainstream textbooks have a very specific agreed-upon number for this wobble, don't they?
They do. The accepted, mathematically established standard great year, which is the time it takes for the Earth to complete one full precessional wobble, is 25,772 years.
Okay, but here is the problem. The timeline we are tracking for these stellar alignments is 46,369 years.
Right.
Those numbers don't match up evenly at all.
No, they don't. This raises an important question, and it's the exact mathematical trap the source material lays out.
I see where this is going.
If you take our 46,369-year alignment cycle and divide it by the 25,772-year precessional cycle, you do not get a clean number.
You get a messy fraction.
You get roughly 1.799 cycles.
Meaning the Earth completes one full wobble, points back to exactly where it started, but then just keeps going for another almost 80% of a second wobble.
Yes. It completes one 360-degree rotation, resetting the sky, and then continues spinning out of phase for an additional 20,597 years.
Wow.
That leaves a massive leftover gap of roughly 0.201 of a cycle.
And how far out of phase does that leftover fraction actually leave us? Like conceptually, what does that look like?
The math is staggering here. That fraction leaves the Earth's axis pointing roughly 72 degrees away from its original alignment.
72 degrees, hold on. We were just marveling at a 1/10 of a degree shift from the star moving.
Exactly.
72 degrees is a complete violent reorientation of the sky.
It is absolute celestial chaos from the perspective of an observer on the ground. The source's AI verification calculates that this 72-degree axial gap translates to a massive 13.56-degree visual shift of the star in the night sky.
Okay, we translated the star's flight to the ground, which was 13 kilometers.
Right.
Let's translate this massive 13.56-degree precessional shift to the ground. How far away is our zenith laser beam now?
The source states that precession moves the zenith over 1,000 times further than the proper motion did.
1,000 times.
A 13.56-degree shift separates the star's zenith and the observer on the pyramid by over 1,500 kilometers.
Over 1,500 kilometers.
All right.
Are you saying if I stood on the Great Pyramid today, the star that used to be right above it is now hovering somewhere deep over Saudi Arabia or the Mediterranean?
Yes.
That is unbelievable. You would literally have to get your passport, cross international borders, and travel across entirely different countries to stand directly under that star again.
You have spun wildly out of phase.
Yeah.
The grandfather clock has swung entirely out of sync with the stopwatch.
So we have a star 13 kilometers south and a sky that is 1,500 kilometers skewed.
Yep.
And we still have one more gear to turn, the conveyor belt, continental drift.
Right, let's say we completely ignore the star flying through space.
Okay.
And let's say we magically stop the Earth from wobbling.
Frozen sky.
Even if the sky was perfectly frozen, the physical ground beneath the observer is literally crawling away. Plate tectonics.
The ground itself is moving, the conveyor belt.
Yes. The Great Pyramid, for example, sits on the African plate. And according to modern GPS laser measurements, that tectonic plate moves at an average rate of 2.15 centimeters per year in a general northeast direction.
2.15 centimeters a year. That is the definition of a snail's pace. I mean, your fingernails grow faster than that,
They probably do.
but over deep time.
The math is relentless.
Yeah.
46,369 years multiplied by 2.15 centimeters per year gives us roughly 100,000 centimeters.
Which is 1,000 meters.
Roughly 1 kilometer. So the physical ground of the pyramid itself has drifted 1 kilometer to the northeast from where it was originally built.
Okay, so what does this all mean for our Stellarium simulation?
It means chaos.
If these three independent forces, the star flying south, the Earth wobbling wildly, the ground crawling northeast,
Right.
if they're constantly grinding, constantly compounding on each other at completely different rates and in different directions, how could a star ever return to a perfect zero-shift zenith over any specific geographical point on Earth?
According to mainstream physics, it absolutely shouldn't. The AI verification documents in the sources explicitly state that based on the established constants, a perfect return is physically and mathematically impossible.
It just can't happen.
The gaps, the 13 kilometers south, the 1,500 kilometers askew, and the 1 kilometer northeast, they do not and mathematically cannot reset simultaneously.
Yeah.
They are completely independent, unrelated physical variables.
Right. I mean, the star flying south doesn't miraculously cancel out the ground crawling northeast.
No, and neither of them comes close to negating the massive 1,500-kilometer shift caused by the tilt of the Earth.
Okay. So the foundation of this paradox is set. Standard physics dictates absolute separation and chaos over deep time.
Exactly.
Which brings us finally to the new evidence, the Temple Mount revelation.
Yes. Having established the sheer impossibility of a perfect zero-shift return under the standard model, the deep dive shifts entirely to this new location.
It's a huge shift.
And the geographic shift here is paramount to the author's argument.
It really is. The source material is meticulously stripping away any safety nets. I can hear a skeptic right now saying, well, look, these perfectly repeating alignments over the Great Pyramid, it's just a software glitch.
A local bug.
Exactly. It's a localized code error specific to the coordinates of Giza. But the author destroys that defense by moving the target.
Yes, completely.
Yeah.
We are no longer on the African plate in Egypt, and progressing from the episode 4 data, we are no longer on the North American plate looking at the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico.
We're moving again.
We are punching entirely new, highly specific coordinates into the Stellarium software.
Let's give the listener those exact coordinates.
Okay.
We are dropping the pin at plus 31 degrees 4642 north and plus 35 degrees 1407 east.
Very precise.
If you pull up a map on your phone right now, that drops the pin directly, microscopically, onto the Temple Mount in Jerusalem.
A completely different continent, a completely different tectonic plate moving at a different speed, and a completely different historical and cultural epicenter.
And what does the Stellarium software, which, again, is driven by NASA's own Jet Propulsion Laboratory math, what does it show us over the Temple Mount?
The screenshots provided in the source files are stunning.
They really are.
The software targets the exact same 11 stars from the Perseus Constellation that were tracked in the previous deep dives over Giza in Mexico.
The exact same 11 stars. We are talking about Menkaure, which is designated 46 Persei. We have 16 Persei. We have Ike Persei, also designated as 23 Persei.
The entire Perseus asterism returns in full force.
What's fascinating here is the astronomical reality of an asterism.
We definitely need to define what that actually means for the listener.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because an asterism is basically just an optical illusion, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's a connect-the-dots picture made up by human beings looking up from the ground, just trying to find patterns in the dark.
Precisely. In physical reality, those 11 stars have absolutely no relationship to each other. One star might be a massive red giant sitting 50 light years away from Earth. The star right next to it in the constellation pattern might be a tiny dwarf star 1,000 light years away.
So they are existing at vastly different depths of space. They aren't a flat neighborhood.
Exactly. They are subject to completely different gravitational influences, and crucially, they possess completely different rates of proper motion.
The stopwatch.
Right. They're flying through the galaxy at different speeds and in completely different directions.
So they are 11 completely independent digital stopwatches running at 11 different speeds.
And yet, look at the dates and the altitudes captured in these new Temple Mount screenshots.
Oh, I have the PDFs right here. The source details specific Julian calendar dates to avoid any Gregorian leap year confusion.
Smart.
We're looking at year 861 CE. We have another screenshot for year 603 CE. And then the software plunges deep into antiquity to year -2174, which corresponds to 2175 BCE.
3 wildly different epochs in human history.
And the altitude readouts in the Stellarium engine for these specific dates, targeting these specific independent stars over the Temple Mount, are just mathematically staggering.
They really are.
For Menkaure in 861 CE, the altitude is 89.9995 degrees. For 16 Persei in 603 CE, it's 89.9993 degrees. For Zadi Persei in deep antiquity, 9-2174, it reads 89.99992 degrees.
Let's explain the profound significance of those decimal points to the listener.
Please do.
In astronomical measurement, an altitude of 90.0000 degrees is a flawless zenith.
Right.
It means the star is a perfect plumb line directly overhead. If you drew a line straight up from the Temple Mount, perfectly perpendicular to the ground, it would spear that star dead center.
These readouts are showing 89.99995 degrees.
Right, a shift of 0.00005 degrees. As we established earlier with the Giza data, shifts that microscopic are, for all intents and purposes, perfect zero-shift returns.
Unbelievable.
The mathematical variance is virtually non-existent. It's the equivalent of a star returning to within an inch of its starting point after thousands of years.
So the Stellarium software is explicitly claiming that across thousands of years of human history, through various disparate epochs, these 11 completely independent stars locked perfectly onto the zenith of the Temple Mount.
Yes. And this brings us back to your point about the asterism.
Yeah.
How does a piece of software calculate that 11 completely different celestial bodies at vastly different distances with entirely different intrinsic motions all miraculously sync up over one specific patch of ground in Jerusalem?
I mean, I have to push back here because this is where my brain starts short-circuiting.
There's a lot to process.
Let's talk about the software itself. Isn't it possible that Stellarium just, broke?
Like a bug?
I mean, forcing a commercial computer program to calculate so many incredibly complex variables over deep time, doesn't it just hit a wall, cause a memory leak, and default the code to a zero state, like a massive systemic glitch?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to understand how Stellarium actually functions.
Okay.
It's not playing a pre-recorded video of the sky. It's a raw math engine. It utilizes NASA's DE430 dataset. This dataset is essentially a massive, highly complex gravitational ledger of planetary weights, barycenters, and orbital velocities.
So it's serious math.
It is the gold standard. The software takes those established laws of physics and runs them forward and backward in real time.
So it's crunching the physics frame by frame.
Yes. And the source material argues that this exact complexity is the weapon that destroys the glitch defense.
Oh, so?
Well, think about it. A random memory leak or a rounding error in a line of code does not orchestrate 11 different orbital velocities and mysteriously harmonize them.
Right. A glitch creates chaos, it creates static on the screen, or it crashes to the desktop.
Exactly.
It doesn't write a perfect repeating symphony.
A software glitch cannot mathematically calculate 11 different variables and force them to all arrive at the exact same 89.999 degree decimal point over a specific ancient monument.
It's just too precise.
Mathematical randomness does not produce harmonic synchronization.
Which means the software is doing exactly what it was programmed to do. It is accurately calculating the ephemerides provided by NASA.
Yes.
But knowing all of this, knowing that localized glitches are unlikely but theoretically possible, how do we explain it when the geographic target moves entirely? What happens when we leave Egypt and Mexico behind and drop that pin on the Temple Mount?
The author is systematically closing every logical loophole.
They really are.
With 3 massive geographical monuments now in play, the argument that this is a localized anomaly completely disintegrates.
Let's tally up the sheer, staggering volume of evidence compiled across all the source files provided.
Let's do it.
Because it's not just a few lucky stars anymore. We aren't talking about a one-off coincidence.
The volume is undeniably huge.
Over the Great Pyramid of Giza, the sources document 38 independent, mathematically flawless zenith alignments. That includes 22 stars from the Perseus Constellation, plus 14 completely different stars from the Pegasus Constellation.
All tracked across both deep time cycles of 46,369 years and modern 4,322-year cycles.
38 stars over one monument alone.
It's wild.
Then we cross the Atlantic Ocean to the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico, and we have the 11 Perseus stars aligning flawlessly there.
Another 11 impossible alignments.
And now, today, we cross the world again to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and we witness the exact same 11 Perseus stars achieving the exact same perfect plumb line zeniths.
That is an aggregation of data that moves far beyond statistical anomaly.
Way beyond.
We are looking at a systemic, highly complex mathematical reality being output by the simulation engine.
And the source material highlights a really critical point about this proof.
Oh, about accessibility.
Yes, this isn't some secret data kept in a classified government vault that we just have to blindly trust.
No, the accessibility of this proof is its greatest strength. The author explicitly reminds the reader that Stellarium is a free, open-source engine.
It's validated by the European Space Agency for archaeoastronomy.
Exactly. Anyone with a basic laptop and an internet connection can download the software, type in the coordinates for the Temple Mount, input the Julian dates provided in the sources like 861 CE or Nagage 2174, and watch the impossible perfect zero-shift return happen in real time on their own screen.
You don't have to take our word for it. You don't have to take the author's word for it. The mathematical output is completely undeniable and perfectly reputable by anyone.
And that repeatable nature of the data is what walks us directly into the philosophical trap set by the source material.
The trap.
We have reached the logical checkmate.
I love this part because it takes all this incredibly dense astrophysics and boils it down to a fundamental rule of human thought, Aristotle's law of non-contradiction.
It is the absolute bedrock principle of logic.
Yeah.
The law simply states that A and not A cannot both be true at the same time and in the same sense. A proposition cannot be both entirely true and entirely false simultaneously.
Like, a shape cannot be a perfect circle and a perfect square.
Right.
A light switch cannot be both fully on and fully off.
Yes. And the source material uses this unbreakable law of philosophy to force a brutal confrontation between the university textbooks and the navigation software.
Let's meticulously analyze this binary choice.
Okay, let's lay out Proposition A.
Go for it.
Proposition A asserts that the mainstream scientific models for proper motion, precession, and continental drift are perfectly accurate, physically real, and linear, exactly as defined by university textbooks worldwide.
So the grandfather clock, the stopwatch, and the conveyor belt are all grinding away, separating the star and the observer by thousands of kilometers over time.
Right. If Proposition A is true, then the Stellarium data must be a massive systemic lie.
It has to be.
Because according to the textbooks, the stars should be scattered wildly across the sky. They mathematically cannot be at the zenith.
But here is the massive problem with just casually saying the software is lying.
Yeah.
To reject the Stellarium data is to simultaneously admit that NASA's own celestial navigation math, specifically the DE430 Ephemerides that drive the Stellarium engine, is fundamentally flawed when applied to deep time.
You're admitting that the very mathematics space agencies use to navigate the solar system and land rovers on other planets systematically breaks down and produces literal fairy tales when calculating historical stellar positions.
That is a bitter pill for institutional science to swallow. Like, our math is perfect for getting to Mars, but it hallucinates when we look at Jerusalem.
It just doesn't track.
No, it doesn't. So what if they choose the other side? Let's look at Proposition B, or not A.
Proposition B asserts that the Stellarium data is accurate.
Okay.
The technical validation reports insist it is a high-fidelity engine. So if the software is telling the truth about these perfect zenith returns over the Temple Mount, over Giza, and over the Pyramid of the Sun,
if that 89.99995 degree output is a true representation of celestial mechanics,
then the mainstream models of linear physical motion, the textbooks, must be entirely false.
wow.
Because the accepted rates of precession, proper motion, and plate tectonics mathematically cannot produce a zero-shift return.
It's impossible.
If the stars truly return perfectly, then they are not flying linearly through space, the Earth is not wobbling at the accepted rate, and the entire framework of planetary motion is completely misunderstood.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
You're in a tough spot.
We are trapped in a vice. We are trapped between trusting the incredibly complex math that navigates our spacecraft or the textbooks that explain how the universe works. You cannot accept both.
If we synthesize this entirely, the source makes a profound claim. You cannot possess a universal map heralded as 100% accurate if it simultaneously proves the universe doesn't move the way your textbooks say it does.
It's an absolute checkmate. There is no middle ground. And this incredible contradiction isn't just about ancient monuments or where a star was located 4,000 years ago.
No, it goes much deeper.
This is where the deep dive takes a turn that honestly left me speechless when I first read the source files.
Me too.
This perfectly repeating clockwork data over Jerusalem is being used to deconstruct the largest, most guarded origin theory in modern science. The Big Bang.
This is where the source material reveals its ultimate objective. The author uses this checkmate to target the very foundation of modern cosmology.
I need you to walk me through this slowly, because jumping from an 89.999 degrees star alignment over the Temple Mount to disproving the Big Bang feels like a massive leap.
It does seem like a jump at first.
How does tracking stars over Jerusalem deconstruct the origin of the universe?
It's a chain of causality, detailed explicitly in the AI verification documents provided in the sources.
Okay, lay it out.
We have to look at why proper motion and precession exist in the standard model. According to mainstream cosmology, these aren't just random phenomena. They are the direct, inevitable results of the Big Bang.
Okay, explain that connection. How does an explosion billions of years ago make a star move today?
Without the Big Bang, there is no initial explosive distribution of matter and energy.
Right.
The Big Bang is the kinetic force that created the initial outward momentum, forming galaxies and setting individual stars into linear motion across the void.
Okay, I follow.
That chaotic outward flight is proper motion. Furthermore, without that initial asymmetric explosion, there are no initial gravitational forces and an angular momentum established to create the Earth's specific tilt and wobble.
Which is precession.
Exactly. That's precession.
So the Big Bang is the starting gun. The chaotic motion we measure today is the echo of that original explosion.
Exactly. You cannot have the effect, which is the chaotic, linear outward motion of stars and planets, without the initial cause, the explosion.
So the logic follows, if the effect is proven false.
Then the cause must also be false.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here, because anyone who took high school astronomy is screaming at their speakers right now.
I'm sure they are.
We know the universe is expanding. Edwin Hubble proved this in the 1920s by observing the redshift of distant galaxies.
The famous Hubble expansion.
Right. We can literally see them moving away from us through telescopes. How does the source material reconcile the observable expansion of the universe with this perfectly repeating 46,000-year clock over Jerusalem?
That is the central tension of the harmonic universe versus random expansion argument. The source argues that we are misinterpreting local optical illusions as macro reality.
What do you mean?
If you throw a handful of gravel into the air, the pebbles fly apart chaotically.
Yeah, they scatter everywhere.
Right, they never perfectly reassemble in the air.
Right, entropy.
But the source argues that the Stellarium data proves the universe is not a handful of gravel.
Okay.
If these 11 completely independent Perseus stars, possessing different masses and trajectories, continuously snap back to perfect plumb lines over the Temple Mount, the Pyramid of the Sun, and the Great Pyramid across 46,369-year cycles and 4,322-year modern spans,
Then they're absolutely not scattering chaotically through space.
they mathematically can't be. If the universe was truly born from a random explosion, creating a chaotic linear expansion, those 11 different stars would tear the constellation apart over thousands of years.
They just drift apart forever.
They would never perfectly sync back to the exact same decimal point over the exact same localized coordinate on a moving planet.
So the source is arguing that the observable motion we see, like the redshift, the proper motion, is part of a massive closed loop.
Yes.
It's not a straight line pointing away from an explosion, it's a circle.
Exactly. Which brings us to the author's final, devastating conclusion. The Stellarium data, powered by NASA's highest mathematics, is revealing a hyper-precise, harmonic, closed-loop system.
Like Lope.
The celestial mechanics are operating on a grand, perfect cyclical geometry. It's a cosmic clockwork.
And because mathematical randomness cannot produce harmonic synchronization.
The source boldly concludes that the chaotic linear expansion taught in universities is an illusion,
Wow.
a misinterpretation of the perfect clockwork of the cosmos. And therefore, the origin of that chaotic expansion, the Big Bang itself, is, as the source explicitly and controversially states, a big bomb and a complete fairy tale.
A fairy tale. I mean, it's a massive paradigm-destroying claim built entirely on the mathematical output of our own most trusted software.
It really is.
If the machine says the stars return, then the explosion never happened.
It forces a complete reevaluation of reality from the ground up.
Let's take a breath. Let's gently bring you, the listener, back from the edge of this massive paradigm shift.
Good idea.
We have covered an unimaginable amount of ground today.
We truly have. Let's synthesize the journey of this deep dive.
We started by looking at the undeniable, repeatable Stellarium data. We tracked it from the ancient sands of Egypt at the Great Pyramid, across the Atlantic Ocean to the massive Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico, and finally today, we shifted to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem.
We observed the exact same 11 stars from the Perseus Constellation defy the 3 heavily established gears of physical motion: proper motion, axial precession, and continental drift.
We watched the astronomical models crash headfirst into Aristotle's law of non-contradiction. forcing a choice between the validity of NASA's navigational ephemerides and the bedrock textbooks of astrophysics.
The ultimate checkmate.
And finally, we followed the logic all the way back to the origin of the universe, questioning the very reality of the Big Bang itself.
And as we close this out, we must remind you of your own agency in this. The deep dive has laid out the logical checkmate exactly as the sources present it, but the tools to verify this are completely in your hands.
Yes, Stellarium is free.
It is.
The coordinates for the Temple Mount, Giza, and the Pyramid of the Sun are public record. The dates, like 861 CE, 603 CE, 2175 BCE, and the names of the stars are all listed in the data.
Everything you need.
You have the ability to run the simulation yourself and watch the impossible zero-shift return happen on your own screen. You must choose which side of the contradiction you stand on.
The math is waiting for you to test it.
But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought.
I love these.
A historical mystery to mull over on your own that builds entirely on the staggering implications of this source material.
Let's hear it.
If Proposition B of our checkmate is true,
Okay.
if this perfectly closed harmonic celestial loop is a physical reality, a mathematical clockwork that centers flawlessly over the Great Pyramid, the Pyramid of the Sun, and the Temple Mount across vast, unimaginable stretches of deep time.
Yeah.
How did these completely separate ancient civilizations know exactly where to build?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it?
What if these disparate monuments, separated by oceans and epochs, weren't isolated architectural projects?
Right.
What if they were a globally coordinated network placed precisely to track a cosmic clock thousands of years before the invention of the telescope, before NASA ephemerides, and before computer simulations?
It changes everything we know about history.
Think back to our opening medical analogy. The software didn't just take an X-ray of the cosmos today.
No, it didn't.
It took an X-ray of our history, and the bones we see glowing in the dark, well, they suggest our ancestors possessed the map long before we ever built the machine.